Welcome, everybody, to the Band of Gamers podcast, number 87. I am your host, Osiris Prime, and along with me, I have Zeuxidamas and DBq Hams. Say hi or wave to the camera. So this week, we got a couple things this week. So we're going to do possibly what we've been playing this past week, but also we're going to start our marathon podcasts of E3 for the coming month or so. It's June 11th, I believe it starts. And we're going to do a little different instead of just having like one massive show, just kind of running through everything, predictions and all that. We're going to kind of break it up a little bit. So first up, this podcast, we're going to talk about a couple publishers. And last week, or I think Thursday when we did our newscast, we kind of ended on Activision, just kind of talking about their earnings calls. So we're going to start off with them, see what they got coming up. Maybe, talk about some predictions. Maybe they're going to come up for the show, and maybe what we want to see from Activision. And then we'll head into EA and, kind of do the same thing with them. So, Activision, what do we got this week, guys? What do you think is going to happen? What are you looking forward to, DB?
Okay, so last week we talked about Activision in terms of their earnings call, and again I bring along my little Cade 6 reminder that there is some good stuff that's coming out of Activision, but as Zeus pointed out, it's a really thin portfolio. And I think that is reflected in the fact that Activision is now only 19%, or at least in this last quarter, it was 19%. The revenue was in Activision, where Blizzard and King were up there in the 40%, 42, 39, somewhere in there. So this makes E3 for Activision really interesting. One, they don't have a big press conference, right? That they're not. They haven't for years. They had a counter activity for a while with some tournaments, but they don't quite go all EA Play and host their own.
Have they ever had a big conference that you can remember? Like a full, like a Ubisoft and EA and all them, Microsoft?
Not that I can recall. They used to have a very large booth, right? But they've pulled out of E3, and even in terms of a booth presence over the last 4 years or so, or maybe not quite 4. But so I'm not aware that they've ever had like a press conference in terms of having a main stage and pulling, the awkward MC host that Ubisoft has been famous for. Okay. So
Who did they debut Destiny with? Did they do that on the PlayStation, on Sony's stage?
Yes, that was on Sony's stage. That must have been when, 2013 or 2014 that they did the kind of the big first public event, right, where they came running out through the gutters, the sewer system area there, and out where the walker was, and there was a big public event going on. So yeah, they debuted Destiny in terms of some live gameplay on Sony's stage, and that kind of kicked off with Sony's premiere and exclusive content. So my assumption is that will kind of follow suit. It's already known that Destiny is going to have some exclusive content on the PlayStation platform. That the May 18th this month, we're going to get the first kind of Destiny 2 gameplay. But I'm going to guess that we're either going to see a little bit of some more teases in terms of some bigger events pieces, probably the first player versus player kind of multiplayer aspects on stage. The question would be, I think Activision has put themselves in a position where they don't necessarily, at least with their two big franchises with Call of Duty and Destiny, that they become, and they've been this way for a long time, as we've talked about the Xbox 360, right? That it was always kind of the Activision, the Call of Duty get for the platform holder to have Microsoft have Call of Duty up on the stage, or now to have PlayStation have Call of Duty up on the stage. So they don't necessarily need to have a big presence, because they're going to be highlights on the show floor. And potentially even with Scorpio, maybe there's Call of Duty or Destiny kind of exclusive, graphic settings or something, right? Like it's going to look best on Scorpio, and so how are they going to do that? So they could play the exclusivity game on both ends if they end up getting, you know, content on Sony's end, but maybe graphical settings on Microsoft's end. But so I've talked about Call of Duty, and we've talked about Destiny quite a bit because it is me. But other than those two, I don't know what we have left for Activision to really talk about. They've already said that there's not a Skylanders game coming this year. You know, as Prime pointed out last time, not Prime, sorry, as Zeus pointed out, that what else they have? They have Prototype. You know, what are their IPs? What are they going to come back with? And on the Blizzard end, you know, they may announce a new character, but Blizzard's mainly going to save their news for BlizzCon in the summertime, later in the summer. So this is, of all the ones that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks, Prime, this is the one that really has me the most stumped of what do they do as a publisher to bolster that portfolio. So can you think of things outside of Destiny and Call of Duty? What's left that they haven't kind of come back to in a while?
Yeah, there was actually one game that I was looking at when I was kind of researching for tonight, and which I didn't realize, but it was Crash Bandicoot, the trilogy game. I didn't realize it was coming from Activision. That was kind of weird. But other than that, I really couldn't find much, or I didn't find anything else really. Just, you know, obviously the ones you already talked about, Call of Duty and Destiny. And yeah, like you said, I doubt if Blizzard's gonna really show much. Maybe an Overwatch thing, like you mentioned. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I don't know what else they can throw out there. I mean, they've never had that I can think of a big mobile presence, so there's really nothing. Like every once in a while they'll throw a Call of Duty, you know, up on there. But I don't think they really announced that at E3, at least not in the main conferences or anything like that. So.
And maybe they won't have to, right? I mean, they are going to have two of the three biggest franchises for the fall, at least that we're expecting so far. And so maybe they don't necessarily need more in that portfolio, but other than Call of Duty and Destiny, you know, what else is there? And Zeus, I remember you talked about this a little bit last week, that this was a really thin portfolio. Is there anything else there on the Activision side that could surprise viewers?
Maybe, you know, and yeah, I said it was a thin portfolio. I just don't know, you know, to mount my own counter to that. Like, it's, you know, do they need anything else? I mean, Destiny 2 is kind of the titan of the fall, right? No pun intended. You know, and Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty taking it back to World War II, where it got started. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably go back and forth on that over the year. So I guess I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to bounce off you guys about Destiny 2, because out of, you know, what's coming. I mean, Call of Duty is going to be whatever Call of Duty is, right? But to me, the questions are really around, in terms of what excitement might mount is around what they might do with Destiny 2. And a lot of this burbles to the surface. It'll get maybe into a skosh of my playlist, because I have been playing some Destiny on the PlayStation 4 this week, and I did go ahead and finally plunk down for all the DLC. So a couple of my questions are, do I have it wrong, or are there no speeders with weapons until you buy the expansion packs?
So I don't know that there's, what do you mean with weapons? Like in terms of projectiles to shoot?
Right. So I played a little bit of House of Wolves last night, and you know, the first mission you get these speeder bikes with like plasma bolt cannons or whatever on them, and I was riding them, and I was like, I don't remember ever seeing like armed speeders in vanilla Destiny, except like maybe on like maybe once on a strike or something that I ran, and it was on a map that they happened to be on there. But like, and I'm trying to think through like the little store at the tower, and I'm like, I don't recall any of those bikes being armed.
No. So okay, deep breath. I'm gonna calm down.
It's all
Not
you,
get
DB.
too excited. So they are They're pikes is what they're called. So they're different. They're not your standard speeder, right? You can't hold up your ghost and summon one. They had a couple spawn spots on the moon around the first patrol area early in the game. Then the strike that you're talking about is the Venus strike, where the Archon Priest goes and where the Archon Priest is going to go and it will. I'm stammering, right? The Archon Priest comes out of the shell.
Okay.
Too many. I have Destiny flashbacks, right? I'm standing up in a corner. I have my icebreaker on. No, so there is a strike on Venus that has pikes on it. It has the speeders with the weapons on them. And I'm excited to talk about this because what happened is in vanilla Destiny, there were a series of player versus player multiplayer maps in the Crucible that were bigger, wider ones. There was a Mars one, there was a Moon one that had vehicles in them. One had the pikes on the moon, I believe, and now the other one had the Mars one had almost like tanks, right? I mean, again, this is Bungie, this is Halo, so, but that kind of, other than the first fall of 2014, it was it. And they never really came back into that play cycle. So that is probably what you were thinking of. So they're not even with the DLC. They just kind of use them because they were created assets already.
So then that's kind of my first major thing on like what I would, what I've been wanting, what I would like to see at E3 for Destiny 2 is I'm not sure. I mean, I guess they're skewing away from vehicular combat because it's such a big part of Halo. But yeah, I mean, that would be something I would like to see. As I started, so these things are becoming a little more acute, right, in my visibility, now that I'm playing the DLC finally. But I'm like I would like to see the speeder bikes and these spaceships be more than just cosmetic. Like I bought an awesome spaceship now when I popped the level 40, and it talks, it talks about how it has like greater, light year distance travel or whatever. But I realize like they're largely like just cosmetic. And I'm not even clear if those are going to be some of the things that you're going to lose when they talk about taking all your loot. So I'm not sure why the world is so constrained. I thought at one point there was talk in the design that you were supposed to be able to like buy ships that would allow you to travel greater distances to additional planets. And I don't know if that was just one of those high ambition things that Bungie eventually backed off of, but that would be another thing, if you could go over to the next star system or just get out beyond Venus, right? So those were a couple things. I mean, I guess out of the whole thing for Activision, I'm kind of the most interested to see, what they're going to bring to Destiny 2, and more information on how exactly you're going to be impacted by the reset. I finally got my first shader last night too, and so yeah, that's a big deal, right? And I can't remember, DB, do you remember? Are you carrying over shaders, or are you losing those as well?
So I believe that we are carrying over not carrying over anything. No shaders, no emblems, no ships, no speeders. The narrative hook there is the tower is blown up and your vault is gone, right? So there's nothing really to carry over. I think that the design of it is that because it was something that straddled both last generation and the current generation, that a lot of the tool sets are pretty hamstrung, and so being able to clear that out will be beneficial. There was something in the teaser, and maybe we'll see this on the 18th, or maybe if they see regular Destiny gameplay, they could leave almost like a Halo Reach ship combat out until the E3 stage. I mean, that would be something there. I think the one last thing that I want to say about Activision before we move on and not make this the Destiny podcast, because there'll be more time for that. But I think the biggest question for me, and not even a question, but the thing I'm expecting is to see how they hook in microtransactions. right? Like what is there? So that's the cynical way, but what's there to kind of keep the player engaged, right? That there's this headquarters space that they're talking about for Call of Duty World War II, right? That it's going to be kind of a social space. You know, I bet that we could even see some type of Black Ops, still more content coming, right? They're Zombies remasters for Black Ops 3 is dropping later this month. So I think that they're going to have some ways to kind of keep player engagement above and beyond just the traditional DLC packs. Prime, we almost made this a Destiny show, but any other final thoughts on Activision or what we might see before we turn it over to another big publisher rivalry there with EA?
I'm just more interested to see what they have with Call of Duty. I know when Battlefield 1 came out, personally, I was thinking, you know what, I don't know if I can go back to Battlefield and go back to they took it back to World War I, so they went way back. Just kind of regular gameplay, you know, boots on the ground and just vehicles and stuff like that. But, you know, after playing it, I mean, I played fine. I didn't have any problems. You know, I had been playing, Black Ops 3 at that point, and what was the other one before that? Advanced Warfare. That was obviously Call of Duty, but you know that was more fast-paced and you know not slow, like kind of like Battlefield is, slower, I should say. But you know I didn't have a problem with it. So hopefully you know Call of Duty, the Sledgehammer will kind of take notes on that, and you know they will go back to the roots of what Call of Duty was, just gameplay and you know stuff like that. Obviously, the trailer that they had a couple weeks ago, a week ago, it was just, I'm assuming, single player. It looked like story stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how they flesh that out, even if they'll show anything. I know a lot of times when they were up on Microsoft or Sony stage, they just kind of run through like a demo of a section of the game. So hopefully they'll do a little bit more and they kind of do multiplayer later on. Hopefully they don't do that this time, but we'll have to see what happens. Zeus, any final thoughts?
No, not on Activision.
Okay. Hopefully they'll show a lot more too, not just these few games that we talked about. Maybe they'll surprise us. Who knows? Maybe another Tony Hawk. How about that? So EA, good old EA. They got their own separate conference, or what was it? EA Play, I believe it's called. That's going on Sunday. I believe it's later in the afternoon. I can't remember the time right now. But obviously they'll have, you know, their majority of sports titles, FIFA, Madden, maybe NBA Live. We'll see if that comes up this year or not. Probably Need for Speed. I don't believe there's a Need for Speed last year, if I'm correct. Correct? Is that correct? Was there like a full-fledged Need for Speed?
There was some. No, I think you're right. I think it was 2 years ago. There was the goofy like online thing that I never played.
The full motion video one was 2015. So.
Okay, and then obviously we'll have Star Wars Battlefront 2, but and then as DB and Ryan were kind of talking beforehand, there was obviously they have some other games that maybe will be shown, teased, something. There's at least 2 games that are being developed right now. Actually 3, I think, because of can't remember the Titanfall guys.
So there's the Respawn. Yep,
Yeah.
Respawn's got something. Visceral's got something, and I don't remember, is Amy Hennig and Jade Raymond, are they working on Respawn or on Visceral's, or are they doing their own? Right, Amy Hennig, from writer of Uncharted, and Jade Raymond from Assassin's Creed development. That they're both paired up on another title as well for Star Wars. So they could definitely be playing on, especially with the new Star Wars movie coming out this fall. I could see that they may not be releasing anything, but certainly be teasing some things to keep Star Wars fans preoccupied and thinking about it. Because even if you get Star Wars fans excited about a game that's not going to come out for another year, they've got Battlefront to then sell you for this year. But outside of that, are there other? I mean, sometimes they've done things like Unravel or little puzzle games, you know, some other little bits and pieces. I think there's going to be a BioWare game, right? The main BioWare studio has something, and they've been teasing something, you know, and maybe it's some type of shared world MMO. But the Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic, BioWare kind of main branch have something in development, and so I'm going to guess that that's the big kind of anticipated surprise for me is what that game is. Zeus, my other thoughts there? Other pieces, other games that we're missing?
I can't think of anything that we're missing. There was something I had thought of this morning about Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I cannot remember what it was. So that's about it. I guess the thing I'm maybe most curious about, and I didn't think to look this weekend, is I'm wondering which branch of the Need for Speed franchises this year, whether or not it's a Hot Pursuit, a Most Wanted, or whether it's a Hot Pursuit, an Underground, or I can't remember what the third branch is.
Do those branches even still exist, or do they kind of? I mean, they blended studios all back together, right? So it's all just Ghost.
I don't think I guess I wasn't aware that they were ever really doing them separately across studios. I think that franchise has always been held by one, but it has been passed around. Back from the days when I guess Tiburon used to do it. I think, and then it went to Criterion, and then it got handed over to Ghost. But they had settled in talking about that was their cycle, right? That they would do a Hot Pursuit, and then one other one, and then something that was like an Underground. But I mean, they haven't really revisited Underground. I guess what was it? It was the PS4 launch title. I think it was the PS4 launch title, or
Rivals, right?
Yeah,
Rivals.
Yeah, and I think Rivals was technically a Hot Pursuit franchise since it was so cop oriented. So I think that was Hot Pursuit. But yeah, they haven't really revisited some of those in a while. But I'm always curious to know and understand, which branch of the lineage it's going to be. And I have Battlefront. I've played. I've practically not played it. But I am still excited about Battlefront 2. The technology looks amazing from the trailer. So it should be interesting.
So I've got an EA question, thinking about Battlefront, because really I've played the most in some of the DLC, right? I've played the Death Star, which I really kind of liked, and then after Rogue One came, I played a lot on the Rogue One planet setting, just because it was the only kind of Star Wars game out there at that time. We're probably going to get some Battlefront DLC that we'll be able to see, and they're going to pitch that. What I'm wondering though is Mass Effect toxic for them? Do they come back out and try to, do they have DLC story missions that they're going to put back out like the other ones did, or do they just, do they write it off? And they continue to talk about patching it, but I wonder if there's even a DLC plan at this stage, or if they're already kind of moving resources.
Did they ever talk about it at all, if there was going to be DLC?
They've never officially said that there was going to be, I think. That's a good point. No, they haven't.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard anything.
They've done DLC for all the Dragon Ages have had DLC. All the Mass Effects, including the original one, had DLC. So, I'm assuming, given it's a narrative-based game, the DLC has always been a way to keep players engaged in that world.
I think a big indicator is that they did not sell a season pass, and announced pretty early before the game's release that there would not be one.
Yeah, that's true. Which I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. I mean, I played a little bit of the first Mass Effect, and I liked it. It was good. There's so much going on at that time, so I never really kept going with it, and I never played 2 or 3. I think I have them maybe because they were like free at one point, maybe. But I don't know. It's just so weird that how this one just kind of fell flat. I don't get it. And it was made by the same team, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Or no?
No, it was a different team.
Oh, it was a different team. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought it was the same guys.
No, and the same guys, they're the ones that are producing that kind of open world RPG, kind of the Destiny-like speculated one that they're talking about. So
the new one,
Yep, that's what I think is probably going to show up, and they can come out and say, by the team of the original Mass Effect. And
just kind of sweep that under the rug, the other one.
Prime, where the heck is Medal of Honor and Battlefield Bad Company?
That's a good question.
I mean, I know for a while Bad Company just like kind of became Battlefield.
Yeah.
But
because there was 2 games, right? 2 Bad Company games.
Right. But now that they've gone back to World War, One, I mean, I would hope that they wouldn't just shelf that concept of that franchise, right? Like that to me is a franchise that you could leave in the modern era, even if the main game has gone back, because what makes Bad Company so great is that kind of ridiculous but very unique sense of humor that game has.
Yeah, and I think for the second one, they kind of toned it down, though, didn't they, a little bit, as far as the humor was? Or no, was it still...
I thought the basic elements of it were still in there. I didn't actually play the second one, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I just saw little trailers and stuff for it, but I thought it was tonally pretty true to the original.
I'm kind of surprised.
It did really well, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't kind of go the Call of Duty route with that franchise, or that series, I should say, and kind of like flip-flop between the two, mainline Battlefield, Battlefield 1 or whatever they want to call it, and then kind of do a Bad Company, in between. I guess they kind of did that with, what was it, like the Cops and Robbers one they did? I don't know if they tried to go back to it.
Hardline? No.
Yeah.
Hardline never sold well enough, and that was visceral, and they've already moved them on to Star Wars stuff.
Right.
I think that Zeus, that could be kind of the surprise, right? So last year we had Battlefield 1. This year we'll have Battlefront, and if we are thinking about what you're saying, Prime, of some type of rotation, whether or not it's DICE, but next year to kind of tease that there is a Bad Company game in development, now you've got a rotation of 3 different shooters. You've got historic, you've got sci-fi, and a modern era one that would completely make sense to do. And even Bad Company was out on the Vault, EA Vault. So again, they haven't hid that franchise. They got it back out there. It's free for people, and that's one of the Vietnam DLC was a really solid batch of kind of that setting, where it's the only time I've seen that setting in a while.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, as far as Medal of Honor, I don't know. I know the last 2 games they really didn't sell well at all, but I don't know if that was just because it was kind of they were both kind of modern setting, I believe, and maybe they were just people were just kind of like another modern game, war game. So I don't know if they're just kind of fatigue already starting to settle in at that point, maybe. But they could always try to revive it, but I don't know.
Yeah, and same thing. That's yet another shooter that got its start back in, or was originally rooted in World War II. So, I wonder if they would consider taking it back as well. I think the hardest thing for them on Medal of Honor is now that you have Battlefield now that Battlefield has become focused on a single-player campaign, which used to not be the case, right? It used to just be a big multiplayer thing, and Bad Company was where you had your single-player campaign. Now you have, at one point, you had all 3 of those shooters in the same space, and I think Medal of Honor was the one that they couldn't figure out how to, what to do about it to make it unique. So I don't know if they'll be able to figure that out this time around. Before we wrap up, so we didn't get a chance to talk about FIFA for Switch, which I am pretty excited about. And I am not a soccer fan. I have never paid for or even played any soccer title on any platform ever. But
not even the Mega Man Sonic that was
nope.
I think that's the only soccer game I've ever played.
But I am very interested. I'm very interested in what this might mean for EA and the Switch, right? If you can't put soccer on it and have the soccer game sell well, then EA is not going to do any other sports franchise. But if it takes root, that creates the potential for us to see Madden, NBA Live, NHL. maybe even some of their higher end racing games that they publish. So I'm pretty excited for that. I might just, in fact, I will probably buy FIFA for Switch just to contribute to that that hope that that it'll lead to more franchises. So I'm hoping they have a big presence at E3. I even though Nintendo's not going to show up, it would be nice for during whatever EA is going to do for them to prominently feature that game being played on the Switch. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll put my Nintendo fan hat back on and say yes. I would love to get some EA Sports action on the Switch, right? I think getting something about more definite on FIFA would make sense, but it would also, if the Switch continues to sell at these numbers, depending on what a port would look like, getting football on there in time for the season, or even if they launch it in time for the holiday season. It doesn't even have to come out in August at the beginning of the season. That they'd still catch, the holiday sales and people who are getting interested in football for playoffs, or even a golf game, right? Thinking about the Switch is a great platform for some of those sports titles that you could play on the go. So yeah, that would be, I'm much more excited about what is going to come out of EA because there's more that I don't know, right? There's rumors, there's speculation, where in Activision's case, I kind of know what their big properties are, and while I'm interested, half the fun of E3 is kind of having that hope and wonder of Christmas Day.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully they'll show a little something on the other Star Wars games. And obviously Battlefront, I want to check more on that, but Amy Henning was on Visceral. She's on the Visceral team, so I couldn't find Jade, but I'm assuming she might be on there too because I thought they were kind of a tandem. I thought I had read. So, yeah. Other than that, we'll see. Hopefully, I know every year we say this, but hopefully it's not so boring. Please, EA, please don't be boring this year. Don't do that long sports segment, please. Just kind of brush over that. But hopefully we'll see more stuff from them. Some EA originals, maybe like you had mentioned earlier, DB, like we got Yarny, I forgot his name now, Unraveled. So hopefully we'll see some more stuff like that, just smaller titles that they're throwing out there. So if there's no other comments there, let's jump into what we've been playing. And Zeus, why don't you start off?
Sure. So it has been Race Week on the Rounding Off Infinity gaming channel on YouTube. Which is playing back here in the background. So not specifically Race Week, but just the channel. So I took it back old school at the beginning of the week and played on the PlayStation 3. I played Grid 2 and Burnout Paradise, which I mentioned at the end of our news show. Grid 2 does not look as good on the PlayStation 3. Actually, I was surprised it looked as good as it did. I thought for certain. I thought that game took a not insignificant performance hit when it ran on the PlayStation 3, but it actually, like I said, doesn't look as good as it looks on the 360 when it came out or on the PC, but it plays the same. So I had some fun playing that. Skill levels were tweaked. Pretty good, so I was actually pretty challenging on a couple of the races where I can't remember what the type of event is called, but they have these race types where it's just you and one other opponent head to head going up or down a mountain, and one of you starts ahead, and you have to stay ahead of the guy chasing you, or if he overtakes, then you can lose the race. So that was pretty fun. And then I hit up Burnout Paradise, which this was sort of one of the more interesting kind of sessions that evoked a lot of thought for me during the week. It brought back a lot of memories of playing it on multiplayer on the 360 with a lot of friends. The world feels kind of empty playing single player. And I think it used to have a mode where you it was one of those open world games where if you allow the network connection to be live, you could see other players going by throughout the world. Kind I know like Test Drive Unlimited had that on the 360, and some other games were starting to implement that. So like I said, the world just feels really, really empty. But I had a good time. It's weird when you go back and play a game years down the road. There's a certain additional clarity about things. Like you can clearly see how the map looks almost exactly like a Need for Speed map looks today. And obviously because Criterion brought that map with them when they had the Need for Speed series, and then I'm sure that Ghost just wound up kind of keeping that design aesthetic on the world maps. So I had a good time playing it, but it felt like I was playing in this like hollow world. It's kind of funny. None of the DLC for that title on the PlayStation 3 is free still. Like game's 9 years old, right? And they are still charging you for any DLC associated with Burnout Paradise, including like the beach Baja, whatever, the big expansion pack or add-on.
With the motorcycles, right? That was the.
No, you get the bikes. You get the bikes now.
Okay.
But whatever the Beach Storm or whatever that came out later is like $6.99. So it's like not inexpensive. And then, like I said, I played Drive Club and Destiny. Drive Club, I'm not going to talk about Destiny since we talked about it a little bit before. Drive Club was cool, but that game, it's so unfortunate that game has a 71 score on Metacritic. But mainly because of all the trashing it got, because of all the ridiculous kind of microtransactions it had when it came out, which was very similar to the way Forza 5 looked on from Turn 10 on the Xbox One. When it launched, but Turn 10 kind of slowly and over months and years, like tweaked that and got that microtransaction model down, where it was not irritating and frustrating. This game has not, and literally like so it's problematic. But the game plays wonderfully well, and it reminded me a lot of like those early days of Gran Turismo, where I would drive one race for like an hour just over and over and over and over and over again, just trying to get into the top three. And that's kind of a lot of what I had. The only thing I really didn't like about it is your propensity to get rain conditions is like very high. It's supposed to be like dynamic weather, so you may not get the weather. It varies the weather, but it's programmed per the track and per event. And I just got it felt like 80% of the events that I was playing in a given campaign were rainy. And in fact, the really aggravating ones were like ones where you would start the race, it would be dry, it would go to rain like near the end of the first lap, and then it would get progressively worse as the race went on. Which I understand that's neat and it's challenging, but it is meant to challenge you, but the high percentage number of rain driving that I had to do in 2 hours of gameplay just felt a little off. So that is it for me. Unless you guys have any questions on those, or else we can go on to Prime, I guess.
DB, have any questions? No?
No, as somebody who's stuck to the side of a rock wall waiting for rain to pass in Zelda, I can appreciate the lackluster excitement that rain brings to lots of games. So
nice. For me, I kind of jumped in a couple older games. I jumped into Elite Dangerous. I jumped in there for just like maybe half hour, not a half hour, like 45 minutes or so. I hadn't played since they've done all the updates, so I actually created my new commander, which is actually pretty. There's a lot of detail that you can go into that, and kind of there's sliders for everything basically. So I didn't go that detailed into it, but I just kind of did the face, did the body, like just generally, and just kind of rode through that. So then I played a little bit, but I found out that playing that game single player now is it's just kind of boring. It's way more fun with more people in there. So, and I didn't see anybody else online that usually played it before, so I just kind of played for a little bit, did a couple missions, tried to do some bounties, and then that was pretty much it. I started playing Rocket League, with my usual go-to game. Then I played Rayman Legends, which I hadn't played at all before, so that was just pretty cool. Just platforming game. So that was cool. That was a Games with Gold few months ago, a couple months ago, maybe something like that. I don't think I had never played any Rayman before, so it was fun.
That's the Xbox One launch title. Is that the one you're playing?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that was.
Yeah, Legends is the one that was originally Wii U exclusive that then came out on everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What was the other one? Oh, Origins is the other one, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. This was Legends. So yeah, it was fun. I liked it. Probably jump back into it again maybe this week. And then along with that, kind of more cartoony gaming, Disney Infinity 3.0. So I played that with my son on Saturday, I believe. I had mentioned this earlier that all those figures are on sale now, like dirt cheap, since they don't make the game, they don't develop anything for the game anymore. So there's kind of fire sale and everything. So I've been buying those figures now for the last month and a half, 2 months. So, and then he just out of the blue was like, "Hey, let's play Disney Infinity." I was like, "All right." So we're playing that, having fun, and that just going through the Toy Box Hub, which is kind of like the main world. That it's kind of a tutorial world that you can go through. One day I want to kind of go in there and build my own world with him. So we'll do that. And then I played a little bit later on that night just by myself, just kind of leveling up the characters I was using. And then other than that, just Rocket League again. Of course, I usually end the night with that. I got on a pretty good team the other day. I think it was Sunday night. Or Saturday night, excuse me, because I stayed up to like 2 a.m. So we're on a roll. So it was nice to get on a team that knows what they're doing. So that was cool. And that's pretty much it. DB, how about you?
So thinking about Disney Infinity, actually this week I broke out a bunch of my the Disney Infinity 2.0 characters, right? With Guardians of the Galaxy coming out, I dug out my Marvel ones and kind of looked through those guys. If you haven't picked up, and I just saw this on like a clearance sale at a big box store, like the Battlegrounds, Battlegrounds, the Civil War one with Captain America without the mask on, and it has a play set with it. It was like $6 at Walmart, right? It has a figure and a play set, and it basically is Marvel Disney Infinity Power Stone. That it's a big kind of like Smash Brothers type of battle, and all the different characters work, and you don't even have to own them. You can unlock them with different coins and things that you earn. So there's different ways to do that. That was a fun one. My kids and I have had fun with that. But what I've played, not what I've played the most, but what I want to talk about the most is this past weekend I got into and had a chance to play NBA Playgrounds. So the NBA Jam type of game coming out from Saber. So it releases tomorrow, actually. It releases on the 9th. And over the weekend, they had some online kind of testing of it and got a chance to do a series of online matches. Probably about 10 that I played, and only won. So I did not do very well, but I really enjoyed it. It plays out. It's similar to NBA Jam, right? Because it's a 2-on-2, but it is not quite the same. You can, your shoves do not push people across. That's not the best way to do defense. You have a steal, and I had one match where somebody was very skilled on the steal and could make that, they could pick me off quite a bit. You get kind of card packs is what it seems to. You earn them through in-game. The publisher has said there's not going to be any microtransactions. And so one of the cool things about it is that, you're playing with both current players and legends. So you've got, I think mine was like Chris Mullin and some early 1980s, late 70s Knicks player that is escaping me for some reason. So
is it still all big head mode?
It's pretty much all big head mode. It's very cartoony. It is. Speaking of cartoony games, yes, it's very much. But
and they haven't given you the ability to turn that off yet?
That is its art style.
Okay,
it's not,
got it.
Yep. It's basically, it is in that kind of caricature. It looks very much like, kind of the caricatures, where somebody's got the over-exaggerated features, So yeah, but then again, it plays really well. They do a little bit more of some, like you can build up a power meter, and then you get a random thing where it can be the equivalent of the on fire, where you get an electric ball and you can't miss a shot. The first You can get speed. You can get your 3-pointers count double, right? If you're like me and you fall far enough back, that is one of the potential power-ups that you can get. But they do really neat things, right? If you do a perfect shot in terms of when you release the ball, you get an extra point. If you're the first person to score in the game, you get an extra point, right? And so there's different tweaks on it. The biggest thing that I wished that there was is, and there will be in the menus of the game, you've got kind of an exhibition where you're playing against the computer, you've got online, and you've got some type of training. And they're talking about even doing having it built in for online tournaments as well. So I think that's, I wish that I had more time to kind of practice it to get where that timing is, right? If you get a perfect shot with the release, but I just didn't have the time on an online mode to figure that out, right? I got better as I played, but I also continued to play against people who were getting better at a faster rate. But I'm super excited about it. It was really fun. It was engaging. It's actually something I'm really interested on the Switch, right? Because it seems like something I could sit down on a couch or in bed and play a game or two against the computer. The Switch version is not going to have online upon release. That was one of the news statements that they released. And they'll be patching in some other things on the Xbox, PC, and PlayStation 4 console as well. They're not having online tournaments yet, so that's going to be patched in as well. So it's coming out this week. I'll be curious to see if, how soon I end up pitching. If NBA playoffs get me excited enough to plop down some money for it. But for $20, it seems like one of those games where I could enjoy it by myself or, play against my family as well. So that's what I've been playing. Prime, any final thoughts here? Any last questions on Playgrounds, since it is kind of a new game?
Yeah, actually, when this first was announced, I'm kind of surprised. It was just announced not too long ago, right? I'm surprised it's coming out already.
Yep, just within the last month.
Yeah.
So.
I know they were talking about how it's like NBA Jam meets NBA Streets. Did you ever play that game, NBA Streets?
I never played it. I remember seeing it. Yeah, so it's kind of, yeah.
I just wonder if it had like elements of that, because I know that in that game, I think I might have played like a demo of it or something. There was, kind of like tricks and stuff that you could do. So, yeah, that was pretty much it.
There's not so much tricks. I mean, I guess the kind of power-up system in terms of the randomization ends up being kind of tricks, right? So that you could do things that you couldn't have normally done in a game.
Right.
But it feels, presentation-wise, it feels very much like NBA Jam. It's a little more nuanced in its defense and offense, which is kind of nice too.
What was the developer again?
It's Saber. Saber is the developer, and truthfully, I should look them up and see where they came from. Like, what's their pedigree? But
okay, I was just wondering. Okay, cool. Sounds like I might have to check that game out. So, and $20, you said? It's not bad at all. So before we close out this episode, anybody else have any last thoughts? Any plugs? Zeus, maybe?
Yes, if I may.
A certain website, maybe?
Yeah, sorry. My 4K monitor is giving me some problems. Come on, seeing things as one monitor when they should be two. And that's an interesting thing to bring up. So I do want to kind of plug a few things on my tech blog, just because I guess I've been on kind of an editorial tear the last few weeks. So I wrote this post in response to an article that was written on Maximum PC, where the author kind of got bent out of shape about business analysts who were saying that tablets were replacing PCs. They are. It's kind of like Ben Kenobi, right? It's all from a certain point of view. So that's on there. I did another stroll down memory lane. I've been doing that a lot lately, talking about video cards at the beginning of the 21st century. Remembering like old PCI video cards, not PCIe, but PCI, and then the fleet up to AGP back when like Creative Labs made video cards, and there were things like 3DFX around, and there were more chip makers than just AMD and NVIDIA. I kind of talked a little bit about the gaming metrics that I've been keeping. DBq has asked me about those a couple times on shows so far this year. And I'm coming up on when I need to actually do something with that data that I've been collecting. and actually allow it to influence kind of where I spend my time gaming. Obviously, our shows are going up on there in what I call aggro posts that have the archive of the YouTube video live show, as well as the audio link to SoundCloud embedded, so you can live stream it or download it from there. I posted a lot about kind of my review and discussion of what does Drive Club look like 2.5 years after it's launched. It's much maligned launch, which is a good thing to read, because I think at some point later we might have a talk about things like this in comparison to Destiny. We talk a lot about Destiny, and the media talks a lot about Destiny, about kind of how that game compares now in its life cycle versus when it launched. And unfortunately, we kind of talk about it in terms of just Destiny, right? But a few games are doing this, and it might be worthwhile having a discussion about how well they have all done. This is probably one of my big ones. Stepping up to 4K is not all plug and play. If you're a PC gamer, there are quite a number of disruptions that you're going to experience in your workflow and what it feels like working on your PC, particularly if you were dual monitor and you do not have two 4K monitors. I always key in on these things because I listen to a ton of tech podcasts, and when I'm aware of something and I don't hear them talking about it, I feel like that's kind of a community that's ignoring things like that. So this might be a good thing to take a look at if you're planning on stepping up to 4K and getting a better understanding of the reality of what that's going to be like when you do the step. And I think that's about it from like the big major kind of original content kind of stuff that I've done over the last few weeks. So I mentioned those because they're meant to be helpful. They're kind of me getting back to a little bit of kind of doing guides or how-tos or know-hows instead of just doing like my hardware reviews and comic book reviews. So I wanted to advertise those and make sure people were aware of them if they were looking for that kind of help.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely have to have everybody check that out. So I think that'll be it for today. Episode number 87 is in the books. Please, if you like this podcast, go ahead and like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family and whoever, strangers. It's fine. Throw it to them too. So on behalf of DBq Hams, Zeuxidamas, and myself, Osiris Prime, thanks for watching, and we will see you actually Thursday probably, and then the following Monday to talk more E3, and maybe we'll talk about E3 on the news too. Who knows? So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.